Chapter 13. My treat to you too. The person arranged to make an entrance was one of the two youths. He walked out shivering. The ferocious beast set against him was none other than that muscular red bear. The fighting process was very quick. That youth basically wasn't a match for the red bear. After barely clashing a few times, he was overpowered. Eventually, his body was directly torn apart while he was in despair. As a result, fresh blood splattered in for directions, causing a commotion in the surroundings. There was also the sound of cursing that was filled with regret. This scene caused the other youth to be so scared that his body shivered unceasingly. He, who was originally supposed to fight in the second round, suddenly shouted loudly that he wanted to give up the match. Hence, under the booing from the crowd, Xu Qing saw the youth being brought away by the scavengers. As for the youth's ending, it was clear even without thinking about it. The person arranged to go for the third match was the scavenger youth. He had managed to draw the larger black wolf, but his experience as a scavenger made him much more ruthless compared to an ordinary person. After a shocking life and death battle, he panted heavily and killed that wolf while suffering many injuries. He became the first case of success in martial training this time around. The gate opened. After that, he clutched his chest and left freely. The fourth match was the little girl. When the cage of the giant horned python was unlocked, the girl shivered and gritted her teeth. She was about to walk past Xu Qing in despair to fight the battle. But at this moment, Xu Qing suddenly spoke. "Let us swap." The girl started, but before she could react, Xu Qing already swapped the bamboo stick he had drawn with her. The moment he took the bamboo stick with the python's name, he no longer bothered with the look of gratitude the girl showed him. He directly walked toward the giant horned python. As he entered, the surrounding scavengers immediately caused an uproar. Evidently, they had seen the sequence of matches earlier. However, other than the gamblers who betted on him and the girl, the other spectators wouldn't care about things like this. They wouldn't care, and neither would the camp leader. Everyone was free to choose their life or death. In the beast fight arena, Xu Qing calmly moved toward the cage. At the same time, the giant horned python within coldly stared at Xu Qing as it slowly crawled out. When its thick and muscular body emerged from the metal cage, its scales caused an ear-piercing grinding sound as they brushed across the metal poles of the cage. Its animalistic instinct felt that this youth before its eyes was different from the prey it usually met. So, after it crawled out, this giant horned python didn't attack immediately. Rather, it coiled its body outside the metal cage and lifted its head high warily, staring at Xu Qing, who was continuously moving closer to it. This scene caused the surrounding audience to be filled with excitement. The sounds of the commotion also reduced slightly. Xu Qing's expression was as calm as ever, and he slowly moved nearer step by step. Maybe it was because he had entered the giant horned python's attack range, or maybe because it was provoked by his aura. The yellow vertical pupils of the giant horned python flashed with a cold, murderous intent, and its tail violently slammed against the ground, creating a loud bang. As this explosive sound rang out, its body borrowed the pushing force from the tail and ferociously charged forward. After that, the gigantic snake maw opened wide in the air, revealing malicious sharp fangs and letting out a pungent smell to the air. Its head whooshed through the air, wanting to devour Xu Qing. Seeing this scene, Xu Qing narrowed his eyes and coldly watched the giant horned python rapidly charging over. The instant the snake got near, his body dodged to the side. However, he didn't choose to counterattack using this opportunity or care about the large snakehead that passed by him. His gaze only gleamed coldly like a hunter as he attentively observed the belly of this python. From his observation, he saw the python missing its attack and letting out a low roar of annoyance. It then twisted its body, and its tail slammed the ground again, creating the ear-piercing whistling sound as it ferociously lunged at Xu Qing. Its hunting instincts made the python forcibly turn at this moment. Its head flexed toward its tail, as though they were about to join together, forming a circle as it charged at Xu Qing, wanting to entangle him in its coil. Xu Qing was silent. His gaze was still closely observing the belly of the giant horned snake. When the snake's tail got close, his right hand suddenly clenched and punched out the instant the tail lashed over. Bang! Although his cultivation of the mountains and seas art was only at the first level, the augmentation it provided Xu Qing's strength wasn't small. At this moment, when the snake's tail got blasted away, it folded backward directly, unable to coil toward its head. The giant horned python clearly felt some pain, but it wasn't fatal, so it only caused its anger to surge greatly. Its eyes then turned red as its head rammed over, wanting to devour Xu Qing with a single bite. Xu Qing focused his eyes as sharpness gleamed within, having found the spot he was looking for. At this moment, he strode over, choosing to advance instead of retreating and directly climbing onto the middle section of the giant horned python's body. After that, he exerted force and punched out ruthlessly with his right hand. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches. His punches blasted out. The impact of Xu Qing's fists made the giant horned python continuously retreat. Its roars grew even more intense as it attempted to coil around Xu Qing. However, the strength contained within Xu Qing's punches made it hard for it to coil around. As for the belly part that was being pummeled, due to the scales there being weaker. After several punches, cracks actually appeared and blood seeped out. This was the first time it got injured. After seeing this, Xu Qing's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he didn't wait for the giant horned python to change its posture. His left hand immediately shot toward the dagger on his thigh. As the dagger glimmered coldly, he plunged it into the flesh of the giant horned python in an incomparably ferocious manner. It instantly broke through the flesh and stabbed inside ruthlessly. As a result, blood splattered around. Amidst the mournful hisses of the giant horned python, a shocking wound was torn through its belly, revealing a whole snake gallbladder. This snake was very large and clearly showed signs of mutation. However, the gallbladder was very small, only the size of an egg. Even so, Xu Qing didn't hesitate. His right hand stretched into the wound, and he grabbed the gallbladder before pulling it out forcefully. Under the sharp cries of the python, he forcibly took the gallbladder out. Fresh blood then splattered on the sand and soil below. Xu Qing ignored the blood stains, and a strange light gleamed in his eyes as he held the gallbladder. Glancing at the surrounding scavengers to add a variety of expressions, he directly placed the gallbladder in his mouth and swallowed it. While he was calmly swallowing it, the giant horned python whose gallbladder was forcibly removed was struggling madly from the pain. Its hisses grew increasingly mournful, and its body was thwacking the ground heavily, causing clouds of sand and dust to kick up. It felt like the snake wanted to vent the intense pain it was feeling. After that, its head knocked toward Xu Qing even more ferociously. Its blood-red eyes now showed a hint of craziness as it widened its maw to the extreme limits, as though wanting to swallow Xu Qing completely. However, Xu Qing only glared at it icily. The instant the snake got near, he suddenly leapt up and once again evaded the snake's head. He, who was now in midair, brandished his right hand, and the black-colored iron stick appeared. When he lowered his head, killing intent flashed in his eyes. His body heavily landed, and he borrowed the momentum to increase his strength, speed, and body weight to plunge the iron stick ruthlessly. With the greatest impact he could muster into the heart area of the python. As a result, the snake's scales in that area cracked under Xu Qing's monstrous strength, and he penetrated the snake's heart with a single blow. An explosive sound echoed out. This giant horned snake's body then trembled intensely like it no longer had the strength to support its body. After that, its head and tail heavily landed on the ground, and its mournful hiss abruptly stopped. Only the weak sounds of its tail thrashing on the ground could be heard. A long time later, when the clouds of dust and soil had settled down, the scavengers spectating this battle were still badly shocked. Many people stood up and stared at the scene in the beast fight arena with heavy expressions. At this moment, the youth was plucking his iron stick out from the snake's corpse. If an adult killed the giant horned python like this, it wouldn't cause them to have such expressions. However, for a small and skinny kid to do all these, the kid had cleanly devoured the snake gallbladder after snatching it forcefully, and killed it in a single blow the next moment with no changes to his cold expression. In the camp, such a scene was very rarely seen. The smaller wolf and red bear in the cage were evidently frightened as well, and they were both trembling. This wasn't martial training but a hunt. Under the stares of everyone, the youth put his iron stick away. One of his hands then grabbed onto the wounded part of the giant horned python, and he walked toward the large gate of the beast fight arena. Behind him, the fresh blood of the giant horned python left a red trail behind. It was truly a shocking sight. Standing next to the closed gate, Xu Qing turned his head and glanced at the high platform. The guy with the 3-stroke beard only came back to his senses after some time. After that, he felt some lingering fear as he immediately showed a hand gesture. Very soon latter huge gate rumbled as it opened. After Xu Qing exited, he saw Captain Lei with his arms crossed leaning against a wall. Clearly, Captain Lei had waited for a long time. He smiled as he looked at Xu Qing. "Can I stay at your place now?" Xu Qing dragged the snake corpse along as he inclined his head and looked at Captain Lei. "You can." Captain Lei smiled. Xu Qing nodded and tossed the snake corpse over. "Since you like to eat snakes, this is my treat to you." Captain Lei was stunned. After that, he laughed uproariously as he caught hold of the giant horned python's corpse. As he laughed, he brought Xu Qing along and gradually walked away. Meanwhile, only after they had walked far away did the audience inside the beast fight arena erupt forth with an explosive uproar. Amidst the commotion, in a corner of the crowd, an old man wearing purple robes sat with an expressionless middle-aged man who seemed like a servant. The glabella of the middle-aged man had a 5-point star totem. Regardless of their clothes or demeanor, they were clearly out of place when they sat there. However, no one seemed to be able to see their existence. Even the camp leader's vision couldn't detect their figures at all. The old man had a rosy face, and there seemed to be lightning concealed in his gaze. It felt like everything could be destroyed if he unleashed it. All in all, his entire being was extremely extraordinary. At this moment, he sat there and stared at the departing back of Xu Qing as he couldn't help but laugh. "This youth is pretty interesting."